I should have kept my mouth shut. That's what I told myself the moment the words left my lips. The moment I saw his eyes, cold, calculating, impossibly dark, shift from his phone to my face. But by then it was too late. The warning had already escaped, whispered across a table in the back corner of Marcello's, the upscale restaurant where I'd been slinging plates and forcing smiles for the past 2 years. Your partner, I'd said quietly, refilling his wine glass with hands that somehow stayed steady, the one you're meeting tonight. He's been on the phone in the bathroom for the past 20 minutes, talking about you, about numbers that don't add up. I didn't know who he was then. Not really, just another wealthy man in an expensive suit. The kind who reserved private tables and left generous tips. But there was something about him that made my instincts scream. The way other diners gave his corner a wide berth, how our manager personally attended to his needs. The 2 men stationed near the entrance, who watched everything with eyes that missed nothing. And there was something about the way his business partner, a nervous, sweating man named Vincent, had locked himself in the bathroom, voice rising and falling in panicked Italian, that made my stomach twist with certainty. I'd grown up in the Bronx. I knew the sound of betrayal when I heard it. The man, he, had studied me for what felt like an eternity. His face was all sharp angles and controlled power, the kind of handsome that made you think of Renaissance paintings and dangerous princes. Dark hair, darker eyes, a mouth that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. Why are you telling me this? His voice was low, smooth as aged whiskey, with just enough edge to make my pulse jump. Because I'm an idiot, I'd thought. Because something in your eyes looks lonely. Because that man is clearly about to screw you over. And despite every survival instinct I possess, I can't watch it happen without saying something. Because, I'd said instead, meeting his gaze even as my heart hammered against my ribs, nobody deserves to be blindsided. His expression hadn't changed, but something flickered in those obsidian eyes. Something that might have been surprise or interest, or the first spark of whatever fire would eventually consume us both. What's your name? Elena. The word came out steadier than I felt. He'd nodded once, a gesture that felt like a dismissal and a promise all at once. Then Vincent had emerged from the bathroom, all fake smiles and nervous energy, and I'd retreated to the safety of the kitchen, certain I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. That was last night. This morning, I woke to find a black Mercedes parked outside my apartment building, and a man in a suit holding a manila envelope with my name written across it in elegant script. My roommate Jess stood at the window, coffee mug frozen halfway to her lips. Elena, there's a man downstairs who looks like he kills people for a living. Probably because he does, I muttered, throwing on jeans and a sweater with hands that shook more than I wanted to admit. The envelope contained 3 things. A set of keys, an address in the Upper East Side that made my eyes widen, and a note written in the same precise handwriting. You saved my life last night. Vincent won't be a problem anymore. This is a thank you, not a debt. But if you're smart, Elena, you'll stay away from men like me. I should have listened. Should have thrown the keys away, blocked out whatever had happened in that restaurant, and gone back to my normal life of split shifts and student loans and dreams of finishing my nursing degree. Instead, I found myself standing outside a building that probably cost more than I'd earn in 10 lifetimes, keys heavy in my palm, staring up at walls of glass and steel that caught the morning sun like a fortress made of light. Just look, I told myself. Just see what apartment it is, and then you'll leave. The lobby was all marble and modern art, with a doorman who took one look at the keys in my hand and waved me toward a private elevator. My stomach dropped as I realized these weren't keys to an apartment. They were keys to the penthouse. The elevator ride felt endless. My reflection stared back at me from polished gold doors. 26 years old, dark hair pulled into a messy bun, yesterday's mascara smudged under eyes that hadn't slept, wearing clothes that suddenly felt impossibly cheap. What was I doing here? This was insane. The doors opened directly into the penthouse, and my breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, the morning light spilling across hardwood floors and minimalist furniture that probably cost more than my entire existence. It was beautiful in a cold, untouchable way, like a museum exhibit titled, How the Other Half Lives. You came. I spun around, heart leaping into my throat. He stood in the doorway of what looked like a home office, still wearing last night's suit pants, but with the shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled to his elbows. In the daylight, he looked younger than I'd thought, maybe early 30s, and somehow more dangerous. There was dried blood on his knuckles. I shouldn't have. I managed. I don't even know your name. Dante. He moved into the room with the fluid grace of a predator, stopping a careful distance away. Close enough to make my pulse race, far enough to let me breathe. Dante Moretti. The name hit me like a physical blow. Even I, who'd spent the last 2 years deliberately avoiding the darker corners of the city, knew that name. The Moretti family wasn't just connected. They were the connection. Dante Moretti was the youngest Don in New York history, the man who'd taken control of the family, empire at 28 and consolidated power with a ruthlessness that had become legend. I'd warned a Mafia boss that his own man was betraying him. And now I was standing in his penthouse. You're afraid, Dante observed, and it wasn't a question. Terrified, I admitted, because lying to a man like him seemed like a very fast way to die. His mouth curved, not quite a smile, but close. Good. Fear keeps you smart. He moved to a bar cart, poured something amber into 2 glasses. But you're still here. You said it wasn't a debt. It's not. He held out a glass, waiting until I crossed the room and took it with trembling fingers. Vincent was my consigliere, my most trusted advisor. He'd been selling information to the Calabresi family for 6 months. Because of you, I discovered this before the meeting where he planned to have me killed. His eyes held mine. You didn't just save my life, Elena. You saved a war. I took a large swallow of whiskey, welcoming the burn. What happened to him? He's gone. That's all you need to know. The certainty in his voice made something cold slither down my spine. I should leave. Right now. Walk out of this penthouse and never look back. But then Dante stepped closer, and I caught the scent of expensive cologne and something darker underneath. Gunpowder, maybe, or violence barely contained. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingertips were surprisingly gentle. Why did you warn me? He asked softly. The truth this time. The truth. The truth was complicated and stupid and made no sense even to me. I saw you, I whispered. Really saw you. Just for a moment, when you were alone at that table before Vincent came out. You looked, I searched for the word, human, tired, like someone carrying the weight of the whole world. And I thought, nobody should have to face betrayal alone. Something cracked in his expression. Some carefully maintained wall that he'd kept in place for so long it had become part of his armor. For just a heartbeat, I saw the man underneath the monster. Then his phone buzzed, and the wall slammed back into place. He stepped away, checking the message with a frown that made him look deadly again. I have business to attend to. The penthouse is yours if you want it. No strings, no expectations. His eyes found mine again. But Elena? Men like me don't get warnings from angels. They get destroyed by them. So if you're smart, you'll take what I'm offering and disappear. He turned toward the door, and I knew with a certainty that defied logic, that if I let him walk away right now, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. What if I'm not smart? The words escaped before I could stop them. Dante froze. Slowly he turned back, and the look on his face was pure predator. Then God help us both. He left, the elevator doors closing behind him with a quiet chime that sounded like a death knell. I stood in the middle of that impossible penthouse, whiskey glass still in hand, and wondered what the hell I'd just started. My phone buzzed. Jess, probably wondering where I was, but when I looked at the screen, it was an unknown number. Come to the address I'm sending you. Tonight. 9 p.m. I want to see you again. I shouldn't, but I do. A second text arrived immediately after. An address in Brooklyn. The kind of neighborhood where nice girls didn't go after dark. I should have said no. Should have blocked the number, packed my things from the apartment I could barely afford, and run as far from Dante Moretti as possible. Instead, I typed back a single word. Okay. And sealed my fate. The address led me to a warehouse in Red Hook, the kind of place where the streetlights were mostly broken and the buildings leaned together like drunk friends. I'd taken 3 trains and a cab, changing direction twice to make sure I wasn't followed, a precaution that felt ridiculous and necessary in equal measure. What was I doing? I was a nursing student who worked double shifts to afford a shoebox apartment in Queens. I had student loans and a 10-year plan and a normal, boring life that didn't include mysterious warehouse meetings with Mafia bosses. Except apparently, it did now. The cab dropped me off a block away, and I made the rest of the journey on foot, my boots echoing against cracked pavement. The warehouse was massive, all rust and shadows, with a single light burning above a metal door. 2 men in dark suits flanked the entrance, and I recognized one of them from the restaurant. "Elena," the one on the left said. Not a question. He opened the door. "Boss is expecting you." Inside, the warehouse had been transformed into something between an office and a command center. Maps covered one wall, pins and strings connecting locations I didn't recognize. Computer monitors glowed in the corner, watched over by a young man with calculating eyes. And in the center of it all stood Dante, bent over a table covered in papers, his shirt sleeves rolled up, a gun holstered at his hip. He looked up when I entered, and something in his expression softened, a fracture in the armor he wore like a second skin. "You came." He sounded almost surprised. "You asked." I stepped further into the space, very aware of the men stationed around the room, all pretending not to watch me, although I'm starting to think this is how I die, lured to a warehouse in Brooklyn by a beautiful man with blood on his hands. Dante's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile, if he remembered how. I've never been called beautiful before. Then people aren't looking properly. The words hung between us, too honest, too raw. His eyes darkened, and suddenly the warehouse felt too small, the air too thick. He moved around the table with that fluid, dangerous grace, stopping close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his gaze. "Do you know what I do, Elena?" His voice was low, intimate in a way that made my stomach flip. "The people I hurt? The lines I cross? I can guess. Guessing isn't knowing." He reached out, and I held my breath as his fingers traced my jaw, the touch feather light and somehow more devastating than any kiss. "I run drugs, guns, money. I make problems disappear. I've killed men who betrayed me and smiled while doing it. I'm not a good man playing at being bad. I'm a monster who happens to look human." "Then why did you invite me here?" His hand dropped, and for a moment he looked lost. "Because when you looked at me in that restaurant, you saw something I thought I'd buried years ago. And then you warned me anyway, even though you knew, some part of you knew what I was." He stepped back, creating distance that felt like miles. "I needed to know if it was real. If you were real, I'm real," I whispered. "And I'm terrified. But I'm still here. Why?" The question I'd been asking myself all day. Why had I come to the penthouse? Why had I said yes to meeting him? Why was I standing in a warehouse surrounded by armed men, staring at a man who could end me with a word? "Because," I said slowly, choosing each word like stepping stones across a raging river. "When I saved your life, something changed. I can't explain it, but I felt connected to you. Like whatever happens now, I'm already part of it. Part of you." Dante closed his eyes briefly, as if my words caused him physical pain. When he opened them again, the vulnerability was gone, replaced by cold calculation. "You need to understand something, Elena. The Calabrese family knows I discovered their spy. They know someone warned me. And if they find out it was you..." He let the sentence hang, weighted with terrible implications. Ice flooded my veins. "Are you saying I'm in danger?" "I'm saying you were the moment you opened your mouth." He moved back to the table, picked up a folder, and handed it to me. "This is everything we know about you. Education, employment history, friends, family. Your mother in Boston, your brother in Denver, your roommate Jess who works at the bookstore on Amsterdam." I flipped through the pages with numb fingers, seeing my entire life reduced to data points and surveillance photos. They had pictures of me leaving my apartment, serving tables at Marcello's, walking to class. How long had they been watching? "You investigated me. The moment you spoke to me, I had to know who you were. If you were a plant, an enemy, a trap." His voice was matter of fact. but there was something underneath it. Regret, maybe. You're clean. A nursing student with no connections to any family, no criminal record, no reason to be on anyone's radar. Until now. Until now, he agreed. The Calabrese family has eyes everywhere. Eventually, they'll piece it together. And when they do, they'll come for you. Not to kill you, that would be too easy. They'll use you to hurt me, to send a message. My hands started shaking. This was real. This wasn't some dark romance fantasy or a thrilling story I could close when it got too intense. This was my actual life, and I'd stumbled into a war I didn't understand. So what do? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. Dante looked at me for a long moment, something working behind his eyes, a decision being made, a line being crossed. You let me protect you. How? You disappear. New name, new city, enough money to start over. My people can make it happen by morning, or... He paused, and the air between us crackled with possibility. You stay close, under my protection, in my world, the penthouse, and everywhere else I go. My men, my cars, my security. You become... mine. The last word was soft, dangerous, weighted with implications that made my pulse race. They can't touch you if you're under my protection. If everyone knows that hurting you means going through me. I should have chosen disappearing. Should have taken the new identity and run as far as possible. But even as the thought formed, I knew I wouldn't. Couldn't. Because something had shifted last night when I'd warned him. Something fundamental and irreversible. I'd seen beneath his armor, and he'd looked at me like I was something precious instead of disposable. And God help me. I wanted to see that look again. If I stay, I said carefully, what does that make me? Your property? Your girlfriend? The word sounded absurd in this context. It makes you protected, Dante said. What you are beyond that is up to you. And if I say no to both options? His expression turned grave. Then you go back to your normal life. And I pray the Calabrese family doesn't find you before I can neutralize the threat. But Elena... He crossed to me again, and this time when he touched my face, there was something desperate in the gesture. I've seen what they do to send messages. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, especially not someone who saved my life. You're saying I don't really have a choice. You have a choice. It's just that both options come with a cost. His thumb traced my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. But if you stay, if you let me keep you safe, I promise you'll want for nothing. And I'll do everything in my power to end this quickly. How long? Weeks, maybe a month. The Calabrese family is already fractured. Vincent gave me enough information to know where they're weak. I can break them, but it takes time. A month. I'd be giving up my job, my apartment, my entire life for a month, living in the penthouse of a Mafia boss, protected by his men, waiting for him to finish a war I'd accidentally started. It was insane. Okay, I heard myself say. I'll stay. Dante's eyes flared with something fierce and possessive. Say it again. I'll stay with you, under your protection. He exhaled slowly, as if he'd been holding his breath. Then, to my shock, he pulled me against him, one arm wrapping around my waist while his other hand cradled the back of my head. It wasn't sexual, or not just sexual. It was... claiming. Protective. As if by holding me, he could shield me from the storm he'd warned me about. I'll keep you safe, he murmured against my hair. Whatever it takes. I should have felt trapped, scared. Instead, pressed against the solid warmth of him, breathing in his scent and feeling his heartbeat steady against my cheek, I felt something else entirely. Safe, and that terrified me more than anything. Boss. One of the men approached, phone in hand, expression grim. We have a problem. Dante released me instantly, all business. What? Someone torched Elena's apartment building an hour ago. No casualties, but my knees buckled. Dante caught me, his arm iron around my waist. Jess? I gasped. My roommate is fine, the man assured me. Out with friends. But the message is clear. Dante's face had turned to stone, fury radiating off him in waves. They know, he said softly. They're faster than I expected. His eyes met mine, and I saw murder in them. You're not leaving my sight. Marco, bring the car around. Tell the others to prepare the estate. We're going to ground. Everything happened in a blur. I was ushered into a black SUV with bulletproof glass, sandwiched between Dante and another guard. We drove through the night, Manhattan's lights fading behind us as we headed north, into Westchester and beyond. My home was gone. My clothes, my books, my laptop with all my school notes, everything burned. And Jess, God, Jess would think I was dead. I need to contact my roommate, I said. She'll be worried. No. Dante's voice was firm. No contact with anyone from your old life. Not until this is over. But, Elena... He turned to me, and his expression was granite. They burned your building as a warning. If they connect Jess to you, they'll use her. If they trace your mother or your brother, they'll use them too. The only way to keep everyone safe is to let them believe you disappeared. Maybe died in the fire. Horror washed over me. You want them to think I'm dead? I want them to think you're not worth looking for. His hand found mine in the darkness, squeezed once. It's temporary. When this is over, you can resurface. But right now, Elena Carter needs to disappear. I stared out the window at the darkness rushing past, reality crashing over me in suffocating waves. 24 hours ago, I'd been a waitress with a boring life. Now I was a ghost, hiding from Mafia families, protected by a man who killed without remorse. I don't even know you, I whispered. No, Dante agreed, his voice soft in the darkness. But you will. The car turned off the highway onto a private road, and through the trees, I caught glimpses of lights. We passed through an ornate gate that opened automatically, and then we were pulling up to something that looked less like a house and more like a palace. Welcome to the Moretti estate, Dante said as he helped me out of the car. You're home for the foreseeable future. I stood in front of the massive mansion, surrounded by armed guards and towering walls, and knew with absolute certainty that I'd just traded one kind of cage for another. The only question was whether the thing I should fear most was the enemies outside these walls or the man standing beside me. The estate was enormous. 30 rooms, Dante told me, spread across 3 floors of old money and new security. My room was in the east wing, decorated in cream and gold, with windows that overlooked gardens I'd explore by daylight. It was beautiful in an impersonal way, like a hotel suite designed by someone who'd forgotten what it meant to live. I stood at those windows now, watching the sun rise over manicured lawns and thinking about Jess. Was she safe? Did she think I was dead? The not knowing was torture, but I understood Dante's logic. In his world, information was a weapon. The less people knew, the safer everyone stayed. Didn't make it hurt less. You're up early. I spun to find Dante in the doorway, wearing different clothes than last night, dark jeans and a black t-shirt that did devastating things to his physique. Without the suit armor, he looked younger, more human, more dangerous. Couldn't sleep, I admitted. Keep thinking about my life going up in flames. Literally. I'm sorry. He stepped into the room, and I noticed he carried a coffee mug. I know it doesn't help, but I am. You saved my life, and this is how I repay you, by dragging you into hell. You offered me an out. Not a real one. He handed me the coffee, black, the way I'd taken it at the restaurant. The fact that he'd noticed, that he'd remembered, made something warm bloom in my chest. Running wouldn't have kept you safe, just alone when they found you. I sipped the coffee, welcoming the bitter burn. How long until you finish this? Really? Honestly? Dante moved to the window, standing close enough that I felt his heat. The Calabresi family is fracturing, but they're not broken. I need to cut off their supply lines, turn their allies, and eliminate their leadership. 2 weeks minimum, more likely a month, and in the meantime, I'm under house arrest? His mouth curved without humor. Essentially, you can go anywhere on the grounds, but you don't leave without me and a security detail. No phone calls, no internet without supervision. I've arranged for your nursing school to believe you've had a family emergency. Your job thinks the same. I should have felt furious, trapped. Instead, I felt oddly calm. You're very thorough. I have to be. In my world, one mistake means death. He turned to face me fully, and his expression was complicated. Regret and determination and something else I couldn't name. I know this is hard, but I promise you, Elena, the moment you're safe, you can go back to your life. Resume your studies, reconnect with friends. I'll make sure you have everything you need to start over. What if I don't want to start over? The question surprised us both. Dante went very still. What do you mean? What did I mean? I wasn't sure myself, only that something about this, about him, felt inevitable. Like I'd been walking toward this moment my entire life without knowing it. I warned you, because something in me recognized something in you, I said slowly. And now I'm here, and yes, I'm scared. But I'm also curious about you, about this world, about who I become in it. You don't want to know that person. His voice was rough. This world destroys everything soft, everything good. Are you trying to warn me off? I'm trying to protect you from me. I set down my coffee and stepped closer, driven by instinct and courage I didn't know I possessed. What if I don't want protection from you? What if I want... Don't. The word came out strangled. Don't finish that sentence. Why not? Because I've spent all night talking myself out of this. Out of wanting you. He cupped my face with both hands, his touch gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. You're innocent, Elena, pure, and I'm darkness wrapped in an expensive suit. If I touch you, I'll ruin you. Maybe, I breathed. I want to be ruined. Dante's control shattered. He made a sound low in his throat and kissed me, hard and hungry and desperate. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was claiming, possessive, a brand that seared straight through to my soul. I gasped against his mouth, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but feel. His hands tangled in my hair, angling my head for better access. I gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, and he groaned against my lips. A sound of pleasure and pain and surrender all at once. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. This is a mistake, Dante said, but he didn't let me go. Probably. I shouldn't want you like this, but you do. God help me. Yes. He rested his forehead against mine, eyes closed. From the moment you warned me, you've been under my skin. I can't stop thinking about you, the way you looked at me, like I was worth saving. No one's looked at me like that in years. Because they're afraid of you. And you're not? I'm terrified, I admitted. But not of you, of this, of how much I want something I don't understand. Dante pulled back, and his expression had shifted. Less guarded, more raw. I need to show you something. Will you come with me? I nodded, and he took my hand, the gesture simple, intimate, and led me through the mansion. We descended stairs I hadn't seen last night, going down into what must have been the basement. But instead of wine cellars or storage, we emerged into something unexpected. A gym. But not just any gym. A boxing ring, complete with heavy bags, weight equipment, and a wall of weapons that made my breath catch. This is where I come when the world gets too heavy, Dante said, releasing my hand and moving to unwrap tape from around his knuckles. When I need to remember I'm still human underneath the monster. I watched him work, fascinated by the ritual. How often? Every day, sometimes twice. He started wrapping fresh tape, his movements practiced and precise. My father taught me to box when I was 8. Said a man who couldn't control his own body couldn't control anything else. He was big on control. Was? He's been dead 5 years. Stroke, ironically. Went peacefully in his sleep after spending 40 years killing people. Dante finished taping and moved to the heavy bag. I took over the family when I was 28. Youngest Dawn in history. Everyone expected me to fail, to be too soft, too educated, too modern. He started hitting the bag, measured, controlled strikes that spoke of decades of practice. Each impact was poetry, violence transformed into art. But you didn't fail. No. I proved I was harder than my father. Colder, more ruthless. Strike, strike, strike. I consolidated power by eliminating threats, made examples of anyone who challenged me, built an empire on blood and fear. Why are you telling me this? Dante stopped, breathing hard, and turned to face me. Sweat gleamed on his skin, making him look like some ancient warrior god. Because I need you to understand what you're dealing with, who I am when I'm not with you. I walked to him, drawn by something I couldn't name. And who are you with me? Someone who remembers what it felt like to be human. His hand came up, cupping my cheek. You make me want things I gave up years ago. Peace, softness, a life that doesn't involve looking over my shoulder every second. Then take them, I whispered. Take me, Elena. I know you're dangerous. I know you've done terrible things. But when you look at me like this, when you touch me like I'm something precious instead of breakable, I struggled for words. Alive. Really alive for the first time. Dante's eyes darkened with heat and something else. Possessiveness, fierce and undeniable. You don't know what you're asking for, so show me. He kissed me again, softer this time, but no less intense. His hands roamed my back, my waist, learning my curves through the thin fabric of my sleep shirt. I pressed against him, feeling the heat of him through our clothes, the coiled strength barely held in check. Say stop, he murmured against my throat, kissing down the column of my neck. And I'll stop. I swear it, but I didn't want him to stop. I wanted more. More of this feeling, this connection, this glimpse of the man beneath the armor. I threaded my fingers through his hair and pulled his mouth back to mine. We kissed until we were both breathless, until the world narrowed to just this, his mouth on mine, his hands in my hair, his heart thundering against my palm, and when he finally pulled away, we were both shaking. I should go, Dante said, but he didn't move. I have meetings, things that can't wait. Then go. He kissed me one more time, slow and sweet and devastating. Tonight, have dinner with me. Let me show you that I'm not just the monster. Okay. He left, and I stood alone in the gym, fingers pressed to my lips, wondering what the hell I was doing. Falling for a mafia boss, letting myself be consumed by a man who killed without remorse, trading my boring, safe life for something dangerous and all-consuming. My phone, the new one Dante's people had given me, encrypted and monitored, buzzed with a message. I can't stop thinking about you. This is dangerous. We're dangerous, but I'm done fighting it. D, I typed back without hesitation. Me too. And with those 2 words, I stopped pretending this was temporary. Stopped telling myself I was just surviving until I could escape. I was falling, and God help me. I wasn't sure I wanted to stop. Dinner was in Dante's private study, a room of dark wood and leather that smelled of old books and expensive whiskey. He'd had his chef prepare something elaborate, but I barely tasted it, too aware of him sitting across from me, watching with those dark, intense eyes. Tell me about nursing school, he said, swirling wine in his glass. Why did you choose it? My grandmother had Alzheimer's, I said, surprised by the question. Near the end, she'd forget who we all were. But there was this one nurse, Maria, who treated her with such kindness. Like she mattered, even when she couldn't remember her own name. I smiled at the memory. Maria made death gentle. I wanted to learn how to do that. Something shifted in Dante's expression. You want to heal people. I want to ease suffering. It's not quite the same thing, and yet you warned me, a man who causes suffering for a living. You were being betrayed by someone you trusted. That's a different kind of wound. I met his gaze directly. Everyone deserves to know when they're being lied to, even men who lie for a living. Dante set down his wine glass, eyes never leaving mine. You see too much, or you hide too little. He laughed, a real laugh, rough and surprised. Maybe. Then his phone buzzed, and the warmth drained from his face. He checked it, expression going cold. Excuse me, I need to take this. He stepped out, but the study door didn't fully close. I heard fragments of conversation, angry Italian, mentions of shipments and territories and consequences. When he returned, there was blood on his knuckles again. What happened? I asked quietly. Nothing you need to worry about. That's not an answer. Dante poured himself more wine, movements sharp. One of my lieutenants thought he could skim from a shipment. He was wrong. What did you do to him? What I had to. His eyes met mine, daring me to judge. In my world, betrayal has one punishment. I can't show weakness, not even for a moment. The moment I do, everyone starts testing boundaries. I should have been horrified. Should have seen the monster he kept insisting he was. Instead, I saw something else. The weight of command, the loneliness of being the man everyone feared but no one truly knew. "Come here," I said softly. Dante frowned. "What?" "Come here." I stood, moving to the leather couch. "Sit." He obeyed, probably more from surprise than anything. I settled beside him and reached for his injured hand, examining the split knuckles. "You have a first aid kit?" "Elena, I'm fine. Humor me." He directed me to a bathroom attached to the study, and I returned with supplies. As I cleaned his knuckles with antiseptic, he watched me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "You're not afraid of my blood," he observed. "I've seen blood before. Clinical rotations, emergency rooms." I applied antibiotic ointment with gentle fingers. "Blood is just blood. It's what we do that matters. And what I do with these hands?" He trailed off, jaw tight. "Right now, you're letting me take care of you." I wrapped gauze around his knuckles, securing it with medical tape. That matters too. When I finished, Dante caught my hand before I could pull away. "Why aren't you running? Most people, if they saw what I really am..." "I see what you are," I interrupted. "A man doing terrible things because it's all you know how to do. Because your father taught you strength means violence, and leadership means fear. But you also protect the people under your care. You keep your word, and you warned me away even though you wanted me to stay. That doesn't make me good." "No," I agreed. "But it makes you human." Dante pulled me against him, burying his face in my hair. We sat like that for long minutes, his arms wrapped around me, my head on his shoulder. It felt intimate in a way that went beyond physical attraction, like I was seeing beneath the layers of armor and violence to the man who'd forgotten what it felt like to be held. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted quietly. "How to be with someone. My last relationship was years ago, and it ended badly. She wanted the power, not the person. When she realized I wouldn't give her control, she tried to have me killed." "Jesus." "Yeah." His arms tightened. "I haven't let anyone close since. Haven't wanted to, until you walked into that restaurant and looked at me like I mattered." I tilted my head back to meet his eyes. "You do matter. To my family. To my business, but not as a person. Not as Dante, just as the Dawn." He cupped my face. "But when you look at me, you see someone worth saving. And I don't know what to do with that." "Maybe," I whispered. "You just let yourself be seen." He kissed me then, soft and searching, like I was something precious he was afraid to break. I kissed him back, pouring everything I couldn't say into the contact. The fear and attraction and impossible hope that maybe, somehow we could both survive this. We were still kissing when his phone exploded with calls. Dante jerked away, expression going lethal. He answered with a snarl. "What?" I watched his face go from anger to shock to fury in the span of seconds. "When? How many?" A pause. "Lock it down. No one in or out. I'm on my way." He ended the call and turned to me, eyes blazing. "We need to move, now." "What's happening?" "The Calabrese family just hit one of my warehouses. They're making their move faster than anticipated." He was already heading for the door, pulling a gun from his desk drawer. "Marco!" His head of security appeared instantly. "Boss? Take Elena to the safe room. Full lockdown protocol. No one gets to her, understand?" "Yes, sir. Wait." I grabbed Dante's arm. "Where are you going?" "To handle this." He gripped my shoulders, his touch urgent. "Listen to me. Stay in the safe room until I come for you personally. Don't trust anyone else, not even my own men. The Calabrese family has infiltrated organizations before. I can't risk..." His jaw clenched. "I can't risk you. Dante." He kissed me hard and fast. "I'll come back. I promise." Then he was gone, disappearing into the night with a team of armed men. Marco guided me through the mansion to a section I hadn't seen. A steel-reinforced door that opened into a room that looked like a luxury bunker. Comfortable furniture, a bed, supplies for days, and enough weapons to start a small war. "Mr. Moretti takes your safety very seriously," Marco said, checking the security monitors. "You'll be safe here." The door closed with a heavy thunk, and I was alone. I tried to stay calm. Tried to convince myself this was just a precaution, that Dante would handle whatever was happening in return. But hours passed, and the only updates came through the security monitor, brief text messages from Dante. Still clear. Stay put. Situation escalating. Don't leave the safe room. I'm okay. Trust me. I paced the luxurious cage, mind racing with terrible possibilities. What if he was hurt? What if the Calabrese family had more men, better weapons? What if this was the night I lost him before I'd even had the chance to really know him? The realization hit like a physical blow. I cared about him. Really cared. In less than 2 days, Dante Moretti had carved himself into my heart with the same ruthless efficiency he used to run his empire. I was in love with a monster. And God help me, I wasn't sure I could survive losing him. The door suddenly beeped and I spun around, heart in my throat. But it wasn't Dante who entered. It was a man I'd never seen before. Older, with cold eyes, and a gun pointed directly at me. "Hello, Elena," he said with a smile that made my blood run cold. Time to send the Moretti boss a message. Everything happened in a blur. The man moved toward me, gun steady, and instinct took over. I grabbed the nearest weapon, a letter opener from the desk, and lunged. Not to kill, but to survive. He hadn't expected resistance, hadn't expected a nursing student to fight back, and in his moment of surprise, I drove the blade into his shoulder. He screamed, the gun clattering to the floor. I dove for it, hands shaking, wrapping around cold metal just as the door burst open again. Dante filled the doorway, gun raised, 3 men behind him. His eyes found me on the floor, found the blood, found the man writhing and cursing in Italian. Elena. My name came out strangled. Then he looked at the wounded man, and his expression turned to murder. "Who sent you?" "Fuck you, Moretti." Dante moved faster than I could track, gun pressed to the man's temple. "I'll ask one more time. Who sent you?" The man spat blood. "You're already dead. Your whore's already dead. The Calabrese family." The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. I flinched, and the man slumped, lifeless. Dante stood over him for a moment, chest heaving, before turning to me. The fury drained from his face, replaced by something raw and desperate. "Are you hurt?" He crossed to me in 3 strides, pulling me up and running his hands over my arms, my face, checking for injuries. "Elena, talk to me. Are you hurt?" "I'm okay." My voice shook. "He didn't. I stabbed him first." Dante's eyes widened. "You stabbed him?" "With a letter opener. It was all I could reach." Something between pride and terror flickered across his expression. Then he pulled me against him, one hand cradling the back of my head, the other wrapped around my waist. He was shaking, actually shaking, as he held me. "I almost lost you," he said against my hair. "He was one of mine, a man I trusted, bought by the Calabrese family. He had the codes to the safe room. If you hadn't fought back..." His arms tightened. "Christ, Elena, you could have died." But I didn't. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "And you came. You promised you would, and you did. I'll always come for you." The vow was fierce, absolute. "Always." Marco appeared in the doorway. "Boss, we need to move. This room is compromised, and we don't know how many others they've turned." Dante nodded sharply. "Clear the estate. Everyone gets vetted again, top to bottom. Anyone who can't be verified out." He looked down at me. "We're leaving. There's another property, more secure. Pack nothing. We go now." Within minutes, I was in an SUV surrounded by guards, Dante beside me, speeding through the night. He hadn't let go of my hand since we left the safe room, his grip almost painful. "Where are we going?" I asked. "A property in the Catskills. Off the grid, minimal staff, impossible to infiltrate." His jaw was tight. "I should have anticipated this. Should have known they'd go after you directly. You can't predict everything. I'm supposed to." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were haunted. "Protecting my people is my job." "Protecting you?" He shook his head. "When I saw you on that floor with blood on your hands, He broke off, unable to finish. "You what?" "I realized I can't lose you. Not to them. Not to anyone." His free hand cupped my face. "You've become too important. In 2 days, you've become everything." My breath caught. "Dante, I know it's crazy. I know it's too fast. But when I thought you were hurt, when I saw that man in the room with you, something broke open inside me. Or maybe it finally healed." He leaned his forehead against mine. "I'm falling for you, Elena. Hard and fast and completely." "I'm falling too," I admitted. "And it terrifies me. Good, it should. Because people I care about become targets. His thumb traced my cheekbone. But I'm not letting you go. I'm too selfish, too possessive. You're mine now, and I protect what's mine. The caveman declaration should have offended me, should have made me pull away. Instead, it made heat pool low in my belly, made something primal in me respond to the claim in his voice. Say it, he demanded softly. Tell me you're mine. I'm yours, I whispered, and meant it. Dante kissed me like a man possessed, like he could brand his claim into my skin. The kiss was hungry, desperate, and I met him with equal fervor, both of us trying to prove we were alive. We were here. We'd survived. The drive took 2 hours, and by the time we arrived, dawn was breaking over the mountains. The property was a massive log cabin, though calling it a cabin felt like calling the Titanic a boat. It was isolated, surrounded by forest, with security systems that looked military-grade. Dante led me inside, dismissing his men with curt orders. Finally, we were alone in a master bedroom that was all stone and wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking wilderness. You should rest, Dante said, but he didn't move away. It's been a long night. I'm not tired. I stepped closer. I don't know what I am. Wired, scared, alive, Elena. My name was a warning and a plea. I almost died tonight, and all I could think, when that man had his gun pointed at me, was that I'd never get to do this. I reached for him, hands sliding under his jacket, feeling the warmth of him through his shirt. Never get to touch you properly. Never get to... He kissed me, swallowing the rest of my words. This kiss was different, slower, deeper, weighted with intention. His hands found my waist, my hips, pulling me flush against him so I could feel every hard line of his body. If we do this, he said against my mouth, there's no going back. You'll be mine completely. I already am. Dante groaned and lifted me, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me to the bed. He laid me down with surprising gentleness, then stood back, eyes dark with desire and something else. Reverence. You're so beautiful, he said softly, and so brave. Do you have any idea what it did to me, seeing you fight back? Seeing you survive? Show me. He joined me on the bed, and for hours there was nothing but us. His hands learning every curve, my fingers tracing the scars on his skin, evidence of a violent life. We moved together like we'd been made for this, for each other, finding a rhythm that was both tender and consuming. When it was over, we lay tangled together, hearts slowly returning to normal. Dante traced patterns on my bare shoulder, his expression unguarded in a way I'd never seen. I've never felt like this, he admitted quietly, like I'd burn the whole world to keep someone safe. Don't. I pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. Don't burn the world, just end this, end the threat, so we can figure out what comes next. And what do you think comes next? I don't know, I admitted, but I want to find out, with you. Dante pulled me closer, and I felt his smile against my hair. With me, he repeated, like the words were a revelation. I liked the sound of that. We fell asleep as dawn light filled the room, wrapped in each other, both pretending we didn't hear the sound of guards patrolling outside, both pretending we had time. But in the morning, everything would change again, because war was coming. And this time, there would be no safe rooms to hide in. I woke to find Dante's side of the bed cold. For a moment, I lay there in the massive bed, watching sunlight stream through the windows, letting myself remember the night before. His hands on my skin, his voice murmuring my name like a prayer, the way he'd looked at me like I was something precious instead of breakable. Then reality crashed back. The blood, the gunshot, the fact that someone inside Dante's organization had tried to kill me. I found him in what looked like a command center, a room filled with monitors, maps, and enough weapons to outfit a small army. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Italian, expression dark. When he saw me in the doorway, something in his face softened. He ended the call. You should be resting. Couldn't. I moved into the room, very aware I was wearing nothing but his shirt. What's happening? Dante's eyes tracked the movement, heat flaring before he controlled it. We've identified 3 more potential moles. My men are handling it. He hesitated. There's something else. Something you need to know. The tone made my stomach drop. What? He pulled up a file on one of the computers, and I saw my own face staring back at me. But it wasn't from the investigation he'd mentioned before. This was older. Photos from years ago. Documents with official seals. When I first investigated you, Dante said carefully, I found exactly what I told you. A nursing student with no connections, no criminal record, no reason to be on anyone's radar. He clicked to another document. But last night, after the attack, I had my people dig deeper. And they found something we missed. He pulled up a photograph that made my blood run cold. It was my father. And standing next to him, shaking hands and smiling, was a man I recognized from Dante's intelligence files. Luca Calabresi, head of the family trying to kill us. I don't understand, I whispered. My father was a mechanic. He died when I was 12. Your father was a mechanic, Dante confirmed, but he was also a fence for the Calabresi family. Moved stolen goods, laundered money through his shop. He worked for them for almost 5 years before his death. The room tilted. No, that's not possible. He hid it from your family, from everyone. Dante's voice was gentle, but the information was a knife. When he died, the connection died with him. You've never been on their radar, because there was nothing to connect you to them. Until now. Until I warned you. Understanding crashed over me like ice water. Oh God. They think I'm still connected to them. They think you betrayed them by helping me. Dante crossed to me, gripping my shoulders. Elena, listen to me. This doesn't change anything. You didn't know. You couldn't have known. But my father... Tears burned my eyes. He worked for them. For the people trying to kill us. He's been dead for 14 years. Whatever he did, whatever mistakes he made, they're not yours. Dante cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. You are not responsible for his choices. How can you say that? How can you still... I broke off, pulling away. Your war with the Calabresi family killed my father's employers. Maybe he would have lived longer if... Don't. The word was sharp. Don't take on guilt that isn't yours. Your father chose that life. He chose to work for them. And yes, he paid the price. But that has nothing to do with who you are. I sank into a chair, mind reeling. My father, who'd taught me to ride a bike and tucked me in at night, had been a criminal. Had worked for the same family, now trying to use me as a weapon against Dante. Does this mean, I asked slowly, that they targeted me specifically? That this wasn't random? No, you warning me was pure chance. But once they started investigating how I discovered Vincent's betrayal, they would have found your father's connection. And that's when they decided to use you, as bait, as leverage. They knew I'd protect you. He stopped, jaw tight. Knew you'd care about me. Yes. He moved closer but didn't touch me. Elena, I need to know if this changes things for you. If knowing your father worked for them makes you question being here, with me. I looked up at him, this dangerous, complicated man who'd somehow become my anchor in the storm. My father's choices were his own, just like mine are mine. I stood, closing the distance between us, and I choose you. I choose this, whatever comes next. Relief flickered across his expression. Even though it means going against your father's old employers? Even though they'll see it as the ultimate betrayal? They see everything as betrayal, I pointed out. And honestly, if my father really worked for people who burn down buildings and threaten innocent women, then maybe he deserved what he got. The words felt like acid, but they were true. I couldn't defend a man I'd idealized, not when faced with evidence of what he'd really been. Dante pulled me against him, and I let myself lean into his strength. I'm sorry, he murmured. Sorry you had to learn this. Sorry your memories are tainted now. At least I know the truth. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. No more secrets? No more secrets, he promised. About your past or mine. You want to know something, you ask. I'll tell you. Everything? Everything I can without putting you in more danger. He brushed a strand of hair from my face. But Elena, there are things I've done. Things I'll have to do to end this. And some of them will haunt you, I finished. I know. but you don't have to carry that weight alone anymore. Something cracked in his expression. You keep offering to carry my darkness. Do you understand how dangerous that is? How it could destroy you? Then we'll be destroyed together. I rose on my toes and kissed him softly. I'm not going anywhere, Dante. Not unless you send me away. Never, he said fiercely. You're mine, and I'm keeping you. His phone buzzed and he glanced at it, expression hardening. They found the last mole. He's been feeding information to the Calabrese family for months. He looked at me. I need to handle this. It won't be pretty. I know. Elena, I know what you have to do, and I understand why. I straightened my shoulders. But promise me something. Promise that when this is over, when the Calabrese family is gone, you'll at least try to be the man I see, not the monster you think you are. Dante stared at me for a long moment. Then he kissed me, hard and deep and full of unspoken promises. I'll try, he said. For you, I'll try. He left with his men, and I was alone with the knowledge that my father had been a criminal, that my life was built on lies, and that the man I was falling in love with was about to commit violence in my name. I should have felt conflicted, horrified. Instead, I felt resolved. My father's sins weren't mine. The Calabrese family's hatred wasn't mine. The only thing that was truly mine was my choice, and I chose Dante, whatever that meant, whatever it cost, even if it meant becoming something I'd never imagined. The computer monitor caught my eye. Dante had left the files open. I scrolled through them, seeing connections and operations that painted a picture of organized crime far bigger than I'd imagined. The Moretti family controlled ports, casinos, political connections. They moved weapons and money and information, and at the center of it all was Dante, young, ruthless, brilliant, building an empire while trying to maintain some shred of humanity. I understood then why he'd been so desperate to warn me away. Why he'd called himself a monster. Because in his world, goodness was a liability. Kindness was weakness, and love was a weapon others could use to destroy you. But he'd claimed me anyway, kept me close even knowing it made him vulnerable. That meant something. Maybe everything. The door opened and Dante returned. There was blood on his shirt, fresh scratches on his knuckles, but his eyes were clear, focused. It's done, he said simply. I crossed to him, took his hands, and led him to the bathroom. Just as I had before, I cleaned his wounds, bandaged his knuckles, took care of the evidence of violence. He watched me the entire time, expression unreadable. You should be running, he said quietly. Instead, you're patching me up. Someone has to. I met his eyes in the mirror, and I'm starting to think it might as well be me. Why? Because, I said, everyone else sees the Don. The killer, the monster, but I see the man who looks lost after doing terrible things, who needs someone to remind him he's still human. Dante turned, cupping my face with both hands. What if I'm not? What if the monster is all that's left? Then I'll love the monster, I said simply. His eyes widened. Elena, I love you, I repeated, the words both a revelation and a relief. I know it's too fast. I know it's crazy, but I love you, Dante Moretti. The good and the bad and everything in between. He kissed me then, desperate and claiming and tender all at once. I love you too, he said against my lips. God help us both, but I love you too. And in that moment, in the aftermath of violence and revelation, we clung to each other like drowning people finding shore, not knowing that the worst was still to come. The attack came 3 days later, at dawn. I woke to gunfire and shouting, Dante's weight pressing me into the mattress as he shielded me with his body. Stay down, he ordered, already reaching for the gun on the nightstand. What's happening? They found us. His voice was ice cold, all business. The Calabrese family. They're hitting the property. More gunfire. Breaking glass. The house alarm shrieking. Dante was on his feet, pulling on clothes with practiced efficiency. He tossed me jeans and a sweatshirt. Get dressed. Shoes. Now. I obeyed, hands shaking with adrenaline. Through the window, I could see black SUVs surrounding the property, armed men pouring out. Dozens of them. Maybe more. Dante grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the door. Marco! His head of security appeared, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. They breached the perimeter. Too many of them. They've got at least 40 men. How many do we have here? 15. 10 more en route, but not enough time. Dante's jaw clenched. Initiate Protocol 7. Get everyone to the vehicles. We're evacuating. Boss, do it! Marco disappeared, barking orders. Dante pulled me down the hallway, moving with lethal precision. We could hear fighting below, gunshots, screaming, the sounds of violence I'd only heard in movies. The tunnel, Dante said, more to himself than me. We can get out through... An explosion rocked the house. I stumbled, and Dante caught me, his arm iron around my waist. Smoke began filling the hallway. Change of plans. He pulled me into a room I hadn't seen before. A panic room, filled with weapons and supplies. You're staying here. No. I grabbed his arm. I'm not letting you go out there alone. Elena, listen to me. He gripped my shoulders, eyes blazing. They have too many men. This isn't about winning, it's about survival. And I need to know you're safe. Then stay with me. I can't. His expression was tormented. My men are dying for me out there, for us. I can't hide while they fight. Dante, he kissed me, hard and desperate. Lock this door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me. If I don't come back in 20 minutes, use the tunnel. There's a map in the desk, money, everything you need. Marco knows to get you out. Please don't do this. I love you. He said it fiercely, like a vow. Remember that. Whatever happens, I love you. Then he was gone, disappearing into the smoke and chaos. I locked the door with shaking hands, then moved to the security monitors. The screens showed a nightmare. Dante's men fighting against overwhelming odds, the Calabrese forces pushing deeper into the house. Bodies on the ground, blood on the expensive floors, and there in the middle of it all was Dante. He moved like violence personified, every shot precise, every movement calculated. He'd transformed from the tender man who'd held me last night into something terrifying. The Don, the killer, the monster he'd warned me about. But as I watched, I saw something else too. The way he positioned himself to protect his men. How he drew fire to give others time to escape. The way he fought not just for survival, but for everyone under his command. He wasn't a monster. He was a leader, and he was willing to die for his people. The thought made my chest ache. Through the monitors, I watched the tide slowly turn. Dante's men, though outnumbered, were better trained, more ruthless. And when reinforcements arrived, black SUVs streaming onto the property, the Calabrese forces began to retreat. But not before their leader appeared on the screens. Luca Calabrese himself, older than in the photos, with dead eyes and a gun. He was shouting something I couldn't hear, gesturing wildly. Then he pointed directly at the house, at the room where I was hiding. My blood ran cold. He knew. Somehow he knew exactly where I was. The door to the panic room shook as someone tried to force it open. Then a voice, cold and accented, filtered through. Elena Carter, daughter of Marco Carter, who betrayed me before he died. Luca's voice. Come out and I'll let Moretti live. Stay hidden and I'll burn this house with both of you inside. My mind raced. If I went out there, Luca would kill me, use me against Dante. But if I stayed here, he'd make good on his threat. More people would die. I looked at the monitors. Dante was fighting his way toward the house, toward me, desperation clear in every movement. He would die trying to save me, unless I saved him first. I unlocked the door. Luca Calabrese stood in the hallway, flanked by 2 men with guns. He looked me over like I was merchandise. The famous Elena, the waitress who started a war. Let Dante go, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Your fight is with me. My father worked for you. Your father was a thief and a coward who died before I could make him pay for his betrayal. Luca's smile was cold. But you're the perfect revenge. The innocent daughter, in love with the enemy Don. Dante Moretti will watch you die, and the knowledge that he couldn't protect you will destroy him more than any bullet. You're wrong. I lifted my chin. You don't know him at all, don't I? Luca gestured, and his men grabbed me, hauling me toward the stairs. Let's test that theory. They dragged me down to the main floor, now destroyed by fighting. Bodies everywhere. Some in Dante's colors, some in Calabrese family black. Smoke stung my eyes, and there, in the center of the chaos, stood Dante. He'd been disarmed, surrounded by 6 men with guns. Blood streaked his face, his clothes, but when he saw me, everything in his expression shattered. "Elena," he breathed. Then to Luca, "Let her go. This is between you and me." "No," Luca said pleasantly. "This is about teaching you that power means nothing when you give someone leverage over you. You made yourself weak by caring about her, and now you'll pay the price." He put a gun to my head. Dante's face went blank, not cold, but empty. Like something fundamental had broken inside him. "Don't," he said softly. "Please, I'll give you anything. Territory, money, control, just let her go." "But I don't want territory or money." Luca's voice was conversational. "I want you to suffer. I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything." "Then shoot me," Dante said. "Put the gun down and shoot me. But let her walk away." "Dante, no." I started, but Luca's arm tightened around my throat. "How romantic," Luca mocked. "The big bad Moretti begging for a woman's life. Your father would be ashamed." "My father," Dante said quietly, "was a monster who taught me that love was weakness. But Elena taught me something different. She taught me that love is what makes us human, and I'd rather die human than live as a monster." Something shifted in the room. Dante's men, wounded and bleeding, began to close ranks, not advancing, just positioning themselves. "So shoot me," Dante continued, holding Luca's gaze. "Take your revenge. But leave her out of it. No." My voice was steady now. "If he kills you, he kills me too. Because I'm not living in a world without you." Dante's eyes found mine, and I saw love and terror and desperate hope all at once. Luca laughed. "How touching. Then I'll kill you both." The gunshot was deafening, but it wasn't Luca who fired. Marco, bleeding from a shoulder wound, had gotten off a shot that caught Luca in the leg. The older man stumbled, his grip on me loosening. I threw myself sideways and everything exploded into motion. Dante's men opened fire. The Calabrese forces returned it. And Dante moved like lightning, closing the distance between us, putting himself between me and every bullet. "Stay down," he shouted, covering me with his body as chaos erupted around us. The firefight was brutal and brief. Dante's reinforcements had arrived in force, overwhelming the Calabrese men. Luca, wounded and surrounded, was dragged away by his own people in retreat. And then it was over. The silence after was deafening. Dante pulled back, checking me for injuries with frantic hands. "Are you hurt?" Did they... "I'm okay." I grabbed his face, making him look at me. "Dante, I'm okay." He crushed me against him and I felt him shaking. "I thought I'd lost you. When I saw you with him, saw that gun..." His voice broke. "Elena, I can't lose you." "You didn't." I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "But Dante, he'll come back. He'll keep coming until one of you is dead." "I know." His expression had gone cold again, calculating. "Which is why I'm ending this. Tonight. We take the fight to them." "What does that mean?" He cupped my face gently despite the murder in his eyes. "It means I'm going to show the Calabrese family what happens when someone threatens the woman I love. And when I'm done, there won't be enough of them left to threaten anyone." The promise in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it made me feel safe. Because Dante Moretti wasn't just fighting for territory or power anymore, he was fighting for me, and I was starting to understand that there was nothing more dangerous than a monster who'd learned to love. They moved me to another safe location while Dante planned his final assault, a fortress hidden in plain sight, an apartment building in Manhattan that his family owned. The entire top floor was his, secured and impenetrable. I paced the living room, watching the city lights and thinking about everything that had brought me here. A month ago, I'd been a waitress with simple dreams. Now I was, what? A mafia boss's girlfriend? His weakness? The reason dozens of people had died? The elevator chimed and Dante stepped out, looking exhausted. He'd been in meetings all day, coordinating with his captains, planning something he wouldn't tell me about. "You should eat," I said, gesturing to the dinner I'd had delivered. "You haven't slept in 2 days." "Neither have you." He pulled me close, resting his forehead against mine. "How are you holding up?" Honestly, I don't know. I pulled back to meet his eyes. Dante, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. His expression shuddered slightly. Anything. When this is over, when the Calabrese family is gone, what happens to me? To us? He was quiet for a long moment. What do you want to happen? I asked you first. Dante moved to the windows, staring out at the city he controlled. When this is over, you'll be safe, free to go back to your life, finish nursing school, be the person you were supposed to be before I dragged you into hell. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give. He turned back, and his expression was raw. Elena, I love you, more than I thought possible. But loving me means living in a world of violence and fear. It means always looking over your shoulder, never knowing if someone will use you against me. It means I'll have to be stronger than I was, I interrupted. Braver, more careful. But Dante, none of that scares me as much as the thought of leaving you. You say that now. I mean it. I crossed to him, taking his hands. Do you know what I realized watching you fight for your men? For me, you're not the monster you think you are. Yes, you're dangerous. Yes, you've done terrible things. But you protect your people. You keep your word. And you love with everything you have. That doesn't erase the blood on my hands. No, I agreed. But it doesn't define you either. You're more than your worst moments, Dante. And I want to be here for all of it. The good, the bad, the terrifying. I want to build something with you. His eyes searched mine, desperate and hopeful. You'd really stay? In this world? With me? I already made my choice, I said softly. In that warehouse when you asked me to trust you. Every day since I've been choosing you, and I'll keep choosing you, as long as you'll have me. Dante pulled me against him, kissing me with a desperation that spoke of fear and relief and love all tangled together. I don't deserve you, he murmured against my lips. Probably not, I agreed. But you're stuck with me anyway. He laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was beautiful. Then his phone buzzed and the laughter died. It's time, he said quietly. My men are in position. Tonight, we end this. Let me come with you. Absolutely not. Dante. Elena. He gripped my shoulders. I need to know you're safe. I can't fight if I'm worried about you. Please. Stay here, where my best men can protect you. Let me finish this. I wanted to argue, wanted to insist on being by his side, but I saw the fear beneath his determination and understood. I was his weakness, just as Luca had said. But I was also his strength, his reason to survive. Okay, I agreed. But you promise me you'll come back. No heroic sacrifices, no stupid risks. You fight smart and you come back to me. I promise. He kissed me once more, lingering. I love you, Elena Carter. And when this is over, we'll figure out what forever looks like. I love you too. He left with Marco and a team of 15 men, all armed, all ready to end this war once and for all. I watched from the window as their vehicles disappeared into the night. Then I did what he'd told me not to do. I followed them. I borrowed clothes from one of the female guards, dark pants, a black jacket. I found the address Dante had left carelessly in view, knowing he hadn't expected me to look, and I called a car, slipping out through a service entrance the guards didn't know I'd discovered days ago. Because I'd meant what I said. I'd chosen him, chosen this life, and that meant I didn't hide while he fought. It meant I stood beside him, even when, especially when, he thought I should be safe and sheltered. The address led me to an industrial district in Queens. I could hear gunfire before I saw the building. A warehouse complex that the Calabrese family used as a base. Dante's men had surrounded it, systematically taking out guards and pushing inward. I found Marco coordinating from behind an SUV. He saw me and his eyes widened. Elena, what are you— where's Dante? Inside, and you need to leave right now. If the boss finds out you're here, he'll be furious. I know, I squared my shoulders, but I'm not leaving, so you can either waste time trying to make me, or you can help me get to him. Marco stared at me for a long moment. Then surprisingly, he smiled. Boss is lucky to have you. He handed me a Kevlar vest. Stay close. Don't do anything stupid, and if I get fired for this, you're helping me find a new job. Together, We moved into the building. The fighting was intense, systematic, and brutal. Dante's men were winning, pushing the Calabrese forces back room by room, and there, in the center of it all, was Dante. He'd cornered Luca Calabrese in what looked like an office. The older man was wounded, surrounded, out of options. And Dante looked like death personified. Cold, calculating, ready to execute the man who'd threatened me. "This is for every person you've hurt," Dante said softly. "Every life you've destroyed. Every family you've torn apart, including your own." Luca laughed, spitting blood. "You think killing me makes you better than your father? You're exactly like him, ruthless, violent, willing to sacrifice anything for power. You're wrong." I stepped into the room and Dante spun, shock and fury crossing his face. "Elena, you're nothing like your father," I continued, moving to stand beside Dante. "Because he never learned what you have. That power means nothing without humanity. That strength comes from protecting people, not destroying them." Luca's eyes flickered between us. How touching. The lovers, together at the end. "Yes," I agreed. "Together. And that's what makes us stronger than you. You've spent your life alone, trusting no one, destroying anyone who got close. But Dante has people who'd die for him, because he'd die for them first." Dante's hand found mine, squeezed once. "So finish this," I told him softly. "End the threat. But don't become the monster you're afraid of being. Be the man I know you are." Dante looked at Luca for a long moment. Then he lowered his gun. "You're done," he said simply. "Your family is broken. Your operations are mine. Your allies have abandoned you. I'm not going to kill you, Luca. I'm going to let you live with the knowledge that you lost everything. That a weak man beat you because he had something worth fighting for." He turned to Marco. "Take him to the police. I believe they've been looking for him regarding several murders and trafficking operations. Let the system handle him." Luca was dragged away, still cursing, and Dante finally turned to me. "You followed me." "Yes. After I specifically told you to stay safe." "Yes. Elena..." He stopped, then laughed, the sound exhausted and relieved. "You're impossible. I'm yours," I corrected. "And that means I don't hide. Ever." He pulled me against him, and we stood there in the wreckage of war, holding each other. Around us, his men secured the building, and sirens wailed in the distance. "It's over," Dante murmured against my hair. "It's finally over. So what happens now?" He pulled back, cupping my face. Now we start living. Really living." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "Stay with me. Not because you're in danger, but because you want to. Help me be the man you see, the one who's more than just violence and power." "Yes," I said simply. "Yes to all of it. I'm still going to be dangerous. Still going to do things that I know. But you'll come home to me, and I'll remind you that you're more than the darkness, that you're capable of love and kindness, and maybe, eventually, redemption." Dante kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And in that moment, in the aftermath of violence, we chose each other. Fully, completely, without reservation. "Forever?" he asked against my lips. "Forever," I agreed, and meant it. 3 months later, I stood in the penthouse, my penthouse now, officially, watching the sunset paint Manhattan gold. Behind me, I heard Dante's footsteps, familiar and welcome. "Dr. Chen called," he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "She's approved your return to the nursing program. You can start next semester." I leaned back against him, feeling his warmth. "And you're okay with that? Me being out in public, vulnerable?" "I'm terrified," he admitted. "But I'm learning that keeping you caged doesn't keep you safe. It just makes you resent me. So yes, I'm okay with it. As long as you let Marco drive you, and you keep the security app active, and Dante." I turned in his arms, smiling. "I'll be careful. I promise," he exhaled slowly. "I know, it's just, you're everything to me. The thought of something happening won't," I interrupted, kissing him softly. "Because you've dismantled every threat. The Calabrese family is gone. Luca's in prison. His sons have fled the country. Their operations are yours now. You've consolidated power so completely that no one would dare challenge you. There are always threats. And you'll handle them. We'll handle them. I cupped his face. Together, remember? Some of the tension drained from his shoulders. Together, he agreed. The past 3 months had been complicated. Dante had absorbed what remained of the Calabrese Empire, expanding his influence across 3 states. He was now one of the most powerful men on the East Coast, commanding respect and fear in equal measure. But he was also learning to be more than just the Don. With me, he was softer, kinder. We spent evenings cooking together, mornings walking through Central Park with security trailing at a discreet distance, nights tangled in sheets talking about everything and nothing. He was teaching me about his world, and I was reminding him of life beyond it. It wasn't perfect. There were still nights when he came home with blood on his hands, still decisions he made that I couldn't quite reconcile with the man who held me gently in the darkness. But we were learning, building something new from the wreckage of who we'd been. I have something for you, Dante said, pulling back. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. My heart stopped. Dante, it's not what you think, he said quickly, then paused. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not good at this. He opened the box, revealing a ring, a stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds, set in platinum. This was my grandmother's. She was the only person in my family who believed in love, who thought there was more to life than power and violence. It's beautiful, I whispered. She gave it to me before she died, told me to give it to someone who made me remember I was human. His eyes met mine. You do that, Elena. Every day you remind me that I'm more than the monster, that I'm capable of being good. Dante, I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet. Not until this world is safer, until I can give you everything you deserve. But I want you to have this, as a promise, that when the time is right, I'm going to ask you to be my wife. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you. Tears pricked my eyes. You already deserve me, and I already know my answer, yeah? A smile tugged at his lips. A real smile, the kind that transformed his entire face. Yes. I held out my hand, and he slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. Yes to eventually. Yes to building a life with you. Yes to all of it. Dante kissed me then, tender and claiming and grateful all at once. And in that moment, wrapped in his arms, I knew I'd made the right choice. Yes, his world was dangerous. Yes, there would be more threats, more violence, more nights I'd wait in fear for him to come home. But there would also be this. These quiet moments of connection, of 2 damaged people healing each other, of love strong enough to survive the darkness. I love you, Dante murmured against my lips. I love you too, I whispered back. Monster and all, he laughed, the sound rich and genuine. Forever? Forever. And as the sun set over the city he ruled, we stood together in the light, 2 broken people who'd found wholeness in each other. The waitress and the Mafia boss, the nurse and the killer, the light and the darkness, balanced perfectly. It wouldn't always be easy. His world would continue to make demands, and I'd have to be stronger than I'd ever imagined to survive it. But we'd face it together, him teaching me about power, me teaching him about mercy. Building something new from the ashes of who we'd been. 3 months ago, I'd been a nobody. A waitress who'd warned a stranger about betrayal and accidentally started a war. Now I was more, stronger, braver. The woman who'd chosen to love a monster and found a man instead, and I wouldn't change a single moment of it. Come on, Dante said, tugging me toward the bedroom. We're celebrating. No work, no calls, no interruptions. Just us, I agreed, following him. And as the city lit up beneath us, I knew that whatever came next, whatever threats or challenges or fears, we'd face them together. Because love, I'd learned, wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone worth fighting for. And Dante Moretti was worth every battle. 6 months later, epilogue. The wedding was small, intimate, just Dante's closest people and the few friends I had left from my old life. Jess stood as my maid of honor, still half convinced I'd lost my mind but supportive anyway. "You're sure about this?" she whispered as we stood outside the chapel. "It's not too late to run." I looked through the doorway at Dante, devastating in a tuxedo, his eyes searching for me. When our gazes met, he smiled, that rare, genuine smile he saved only for me. "I'm sure," I said. "He's everything I didn't know I needed." Even with the whole, Mafia thing? Especially with that. I squeezed her hand. "I know it sounds crazy, but he makes me braver, and I make him better. Together, we're whole." Jess shook her head, but she was smiling. "Then let's get you married to your terrifying mob boss." The ceremony was beautiful. Traditional vows that felt revolutionary in the context of our unusual lives. When Dante slipped the wedding band onto my finger, next to the emerald that had lived there for months, his hand trembled slightly. "I promise," he said softly, "just for me, to be worthy of this, of you, every day for the rest of our lives." "You already are," I whispered back. The kiss sealed not just a marriage, but a partnership, a promise that we'd face whatever came, together. Later, at the reception held in the penthouse that was now officially ours, Dante pulled me onto the balcony. The city sprawled beneath us, glittering and dangerous and beautiful. "Any regrets?" he asked, wrapping his arms around me. I leaned back against him, my husband, feeling nothing but certainty. "Not a single one. Even though your life will never be normal." "Normal is overrated." I turned in his arms. "I'd rather have extraordinary, and dangerous, and real." "We'll have all three," he promised, "plus safety eventually. I'm working on legitimizing more of the business, getting out of the worst of it. For you, for any future." He stopped, looking almost shy. "Children?" I supplied, smiling. "Maybe, if you want them. If we can make this world safe enough." "We will," I said with confidence I'd earned through fire and blood. "We'll build something better. Not perfect, but ours." Dante kissed me. My husband, my partner, my choice. "I love you, Mrs. Moretti." "I love you too," I whispered. "Now and forever." And as the city lights sparkled and music drifted from inside, we stood together on the edge of our new life. The waitress who'd warned a stranger, the Mafia boss who'd learned to love, two impossible people who'd found each other in the darkness and decided to build their own light. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't the safe, normal future I'd once imagined. It was better, because it was ours, built on truth and choice and love strong enough to survive anything. And that, I'd learned, was worth every risk I'd taken.